Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 117 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. We start with Imogen having just seen her mother in the process of being absorbed by Ludinus. Imogen informs the party that she is being absorbed, and the party wants to get moving now. Ashton says it is clearly a trap, so they should be very careful. Fern questions if they really only have an hour, that is their harness that they might have less time. Lana says that's why they have to get going now. They're still under the spell that is seeming from Caleb. They know that they're heading towards the area that is most likely completely empty. Chet thinks back to any higher ranking soldiers and what they've been wearing. He knows that most of them have like mantles and some of them have what seem to be leather bands with a lot of intricate designs on them. Ashton suggests making one of them look high ranking, but they're not too sure how their illusion spells will mess with the seeming spell. Matt has two clocks that he's going to be using throughout the duration of this episode, one that's good and one that's bad, and he'll be marking them and he won't tell us which one is which, and depending on how well they go as they move, they'll either be there in time to save Liliana or they won't be. And the party head out. Imogen will lead using her connection to Predathos to guide her. They can see the prime pillar from where they are and the many homes in this area. Imogen will roll a d20 and add her charisma modifier to it. However, Imogen has a red tether between herself and Fern at all times now, which gives her an advantage. So she rolls a 21 on her roll, and they both feel a pulse from the prime pillar, and the energy that goes from bottom to top. They can both feel the pull towards it, towards Predathos. They feel like they're being dragged towards the pillar. Matt then marks one of the clocks, we're not sure which. The party begin to beeline their way towards this pull. Orm is on lookout and he rolls a natural 20 on perception, because of course he does. It was something ridiculous in like the 30s. They move between the walkways of this region of the city. They try to make it seem like they belong where they are. Chetney and Breas cast minor illusion to make it look like they have clipboards as if they're taking notes of everything that's going on. Orm helps the party avoid conflict, and within 10 minutes they are now closer to the prime pillar. There seems to be some new wall built here before they get to the large space between the city and the pillar. They can see right up against the pillar, or burrowed into the pillar, there's a 20-foot hole, both tall and wide, that seems to have been built in and goes below the prime pillar. There are two Thought Eaters, a Juggernaut, and a handful of guards on the outside circling it. Imogen hopes that the Mighty Nine's mission kicks off very soon to help distract them move in. They can either wait for the Mighty Nine or try to push in now. Imogen says that they have their vanguard robes still, they could try to use them as some sort of distraction. Matt will let them drop the seeming spell on themselves if they choose to, and individuals can do this. Fern and Lana suggest Imogen being her mother again, but they're not too sure how that'll work right now. Breas says that they can pretend that Imogen is surrendering. Orm looks to see how far away they are from the hole, and they're about 120 feet away. The party choose to make Fern look like their prisoner, as Liliana might be a bit of an issue right now. She drops her seeming spell and now looks like herself. She puts her hands behind her back as if she's tied up, and the party begin to walk towards the hole with a flying V formation, with Fern in the middle. Imogen out in front as she has the, her mind connection powers. They walk up to the pillar and Breas gives Imogen some inspiration and Fern gives her guidance. They start crossing the gap between the wall, the new wall, and the hole in the pillar. Two of the patrolling guards look at them, as do the Thought Eaters and the Juggernaut. One of the Thought Eaters moves towards the party and the other one stays back. The one that stays back seems to be of higher station. Imogen hears in her head, "What brings you here?" Imogen says an escaped exultant called by Ludinus. She was trying to escape her duty. Deception check, natural 20. Matt marks one of the clocks, we're not sure which. The Thought Eater asks Fern what makes her so special, and she says that she is the daughter of Zethuda. The Thought Eater asks Imogen about the rest of her compatriots, and Imogen says that they got away. The Thought Eater says that they have appreciated her aid up to this point, but they will take her from here. Fern is then suddenly pulled forward a little bit, and suddenly a massive explosion goes off on the prime pillar. The explosion rings in all of their ears throughout the entire cavern. The soldiers all talk silently amongst themselves, seemingly in their heads, and some of them start moving towards the explosion. Imogen tells the Thought Eater that she'll take Fern, And the Thought Eater nods, and the party then start to rush towards the hole as the guards here start rushing the explosion. The party, as they run into the hole, can hear a battle kicking off in the distance. Inside the tunnel, some of the rocks are still falling. Chetney starts sniffing around instantly, perception check of 20. Imogen puts the image of her locket in Brace's head so he can use detect object. But when he does so, he gets no ping, which means that it is still outside the range of the spell, meaning that they're going to have to travel much further in before he does get a ping. It doesn't take long until the party see that the prime pillar is exposed down in this tunnel. This tunnel is very steep and spiraling, but a very slight spiral. You can't tell because of how big the prime pillar is. There are parts of the wall that have been broken away towards the pillar so there can be light in this area, otherwise it would be completely dark. Following Chetney's nose, he finds bent pipes that seem to be discarded from, things that were digging beforehand but are no longer useful. After a bit of walking, Chetney gets a familiar smell in his nose. He smells avidons, the headless, panther-like creatures that they fought back at the bridge and that some of the Mighty Nine tried to avoid back in their episodes. A group of them is coming up to inspect the explosion. The party think it's best to hide, and they try to think of ways to hide. They decide to throw their black hole down on the ground and use it to trap the avidons. The avidons are getting closer. Ashton and Orem take a spot on the sides, hidden, waiting to smash them in if need be. Group stealth check. A natural 20 from Chetney for 32 as a total. Laudna with a 14, Dorian with a 25, Breas with a 12, Fern with a 14, Imogen 15, Orem a 20, and Ashton a 26. The party see the avidons run around the slight spiral of the tunnel. One of the avidons seems to pick up the presence of their minds, as they also have somewhat psychic powers. The other two, however, don't seem to notice anything quite yet, and they move up towards the hole. However, they notice the hole and start moving towards the side, as the hole doesn't fill up the entire space. At this moment, Ashton and Orem both make their attacks to push them in. Ashton with a natural 20, and Orem hits with a 18, but the avidon saves on his pushing attack. Ashton smashes this avidon for 45 damage, and it falls in the hole. Orem did 21 damage to his avidon, but it didn't fall in. Chetney makes a shoving attack to push it in, and with all of Chet's strength, he pushes the avidon in, beating the avidon's roll. The third one starts to get ready, and Fern tries to taunt it out towards her, and with a persuasion check of 32, it begins to run at her. It then jumps over the hole, and Imogen tries to grab it with telekinesis, but is unsuccessful at the moment, and it begins to swipe at Fern. It would hit its first attack, but she casts shield, protecting herself. However, it does make its second attack for 7 damage. Fern needs to make a strength save. She rolls a 12, and she is grappled. Breas then runs up and tries to shove it into the hole. Breas crits on his roll, but so does the avidon. However, Breas' total is 27, and the avidon's is only 25, meaning Breas still wins this contested struggle. It is thrown into the black hole, and Laudna immediately uses Mage Hand to close the hole up for them. So, they roll up their hole, which is now pretty full. Yep, those words just came out of my mouth. And they start heading back down the tunnel. After about 5 more minutes, they see that there are a bunch of branching tunnels from here. They seem to be natural caverns that seem to branch off, and the one that they're currently in is man-made. So they continue following the man-made tunnel going down. As they get deeper, the pillar is less smooth and more porous and looks more like roots, with pieces of it jutting out from the side. They also pick up a musty smell, like fungus. As the pillar glows in the cavern, they can see off to one of the sides in one of the many side caverns. There seems to be a bunch of eyes looking at the party. Ashton thinks that this is a good place to potentially plant the seed from the All Minds Burn. Finally paying that off, the party see movement in this little offshoot cavern. It's very dark in there. They see more than 12 Mycete walk out from this dark cavern. The reflection that they saw that they thought were eyes were actually just parts of their cap. Imogen asks if they know where the group is. It doesn't talk, or one of them doesn't talk back to her, but she gets a feeling that it knows where stuff is happening. 12 more then walk out of this dark cavern. Ashton asks for some light inside that cavern so he can potentially plant the seed. Insight check from Orem to see what the vibes are like, and he gets a whisper. The cavern that they came from is filled with light, and it seems to splinter off into many other offshoot caverns. It seems like there are glass veins in here as well. Ashton sees that this might be a good spot to plant his seed. That's a weird sentence, now that I've said that. Orem gives one of the Mycete a strawberry, who takes it and smears it on his mushroom cap. Orem then hands out more blueberries and strawberries, and the others start smearing them on themselves as well. He tries to move them away from the room a little bit. Imogen wants to get going. Obviously, there's very little time. Dorian wants to look at some of the glass veins and inspect them. He rolls a natural 20 on his investigation check. He sees there's what looks to be some sort of skin membrane on the walls in this room, and it, is vaguely familiar to the fungus of the Mycete, but not like exactly the same. And he sees a Mycete walk out of one of the tunnels specifically. They realize the Mycete might likely have a underground tunnel network all around this area and below the prime pillar. The party think it might be a faster way to get to the hollowed cage. Imogen puts the image of Prodothos in one of the minds of the Mycete, and it stands straight and looks at her, and then grabs her hand and begins to pull her into that dark room. Other Mycete begin to swarm her, no longer paying attention to Orem. She makes an insight check to see if they are threatening, and she gets a whisper. The party watch all the Mycete pull her into the tunnel. Dorian suggests the Mycete are talking to Prodothos, and this might not be a great idea, and asks if she's okay with that. Imogen says that she thinks that they can take them down further, much faster. Laudna, however, sent Pate into the tunnels earlier, and he sees hundreds of potential tunnels going downward, and he can't really make sense of it. Breas uses Divine Sense to see if anything, against his morality is nearby, and nothing seems to ping. The Mycete push Imogen into some of these tunnels, and she brings her lights with her just to be safe. They bring her to what looks to be some sort of alcove where they see 5 more tunnels. She sees the fungal membrane around this room quite thickly. One tunnel is about Imogen's size, and the Mycete push her towards it. The others in the party follow. Imogen is in front of this 3-foot wide, 3-foot tall tunnel, and it looks like a slide. Imogen turns to the others and says, "Slide," and as she goes to jump in, one of the Mycete actually pulls her in to the slide with it. She is now moving faster than her lights can keep up, and she is bolting down a slide in darkness. The rest of the party follow. Fern and Breas are big enough to where it might be a little bit of an issue, but Fern covers herself in a bit of the membrane and jumps down and has no issues. And Breas covers himself in water, making him a bit more slick, so he has no issues. Now they're all sliding down this dark slide. It's kind of like, when you're at a water park and it's a black tube. After a bit, Imogen slows down and is suddenly slammed in the back by Laudna and is pushed forward once again. Group athletics check. Ashen, natural 20. Orem, 18. Imogen, 11. Fern, 4. Breas, 15. Dorian, 22. Laudna, a 6. Chetney, a 19. The tunnels are slick at first, but eventually they become rough and ragged. At a certain point, all of them feel their butts leave the ground, and they are suddenly airborne for a bit, and they seem to land into a new tunnel. Some of the party get beat up by the slide a little bit, and Matt marks down on something on a different clock, seemingly confirming which one's which. It seems that everything that's been good has been going to the right, and everything that's bad has been going to the left. So now we know which one's which. They eventually see, by the way, most of the things were going towards the right for a while. Sorry. Yes, the right. The right was the good one. They eventually see some light below, and it looks like Imogen will hit the ground hard if she doesn't stop herself somehow. She uses a sorcery point to do so, and she avoids slamming into the ground. Laudna casts Featherfall on herself and the others, making it a lot easier for them to deal with whatever's about to happen. They hit the ground and they realize that it's a spongy-like floor, and they bounce off it pretty easily. They're now standing in an open area, and they see a bunch of Mycete have already been in here, but then more pile up at the bottom of the slide. The smell in here is very strong. The fungal membrane is very thick as well, and there is a glow from the prime pillar that is covered a little bit by said membrane, so it's a little bit opaque. Ashton thinks that this is the place to plant his seed for sure. He sees some water in the room, and Orem watches as some tendrils begin to dangle down from the ceiling. Ashton puts the seed into the water, and the tendrils immediately grab it. They don't really find a source for these tendrils, they just see that they're kind of everywhere throughout this room. Imogen looks for an exit, Breas dips his toe into the water to see what would happen. Imogen rolled a natural 20 on her perception check. Nothing happens to Breas when he touches the water. The party watched the tendrils inspect the seed, and where the seed had touched the water, there seems to be roots coming out from there, of green and yellow coloring. Ashton tries to splash it with the water and successfully does, and the seed begins to burst into more green and yellow roots, which reach out towards the tendrils. Ashton tells Imogen to use telekinesis to move more of the water onto it. Chetney puts slick shimmer oil on Breas and Fern in case they need to slide anymore. Ashton sees the tendrils are very curious about the seed as it seems to be a foreign object being added to an ecosystem. Imogen sees many tunnels that seem to both lead and leave here, but she watches as the fungus grows over the exits blocking their escape. As the tendrils are inspecting the seed, seems nothing can leave until this thing is thoroughly satisfied with what it's looking at. Breas steps into the water and it goes about waist deep. He is then lifted out of the ground by some sort of central pillar of black fungus that was inside the water. He is stuck waist deep in it. He seems to be being judged by this black fungus. Fern uses speak with plants and she holds her hand out to the tendrils that are holding Breas, or this fungus that's holding Breas. A tendril comes out and grabs her hand, and she is connected to this fungus. She can feel everything around her, the mycete, the fungus, the membrane, everything. She says that they are friends with the mycete, and the colors in her mind change from a curious blue to a questioning yellow. It wants to know why. Ashton tells Fern that it's a friend and it wants to explore and is very lonely. Fern says it back to this little fungus, and a persuasion check of natural 20 for 33. The natural 20s are insane, and they go away. The fungus connects with the idea of being lonely and offers back a sense of emotion. Fern sees images of misuse, flashes of the weave mind, and the feeling of limbo between what's above and what's below. It knows what's below and doesn't seem to have an opinion on it. The fungus embraces the seed and it begins to expand out and seemingly joins the fungus. And the exits open up once again. Breas is let go of, because, that would have been nice to not be inside of a fungus. The mycetes start to pull Imogen towards a tunnel again, and the membrane pulls away, making it a lot easier for them to walk on. Imogen asks how much further down it is and which way to go. She is told that it's very deep down and to stick to the left. The party eventually reach another slide, and this time there's some water coming from the chamber to make it easier for them to go down, so no one has any issues. They begin to slide down again. Another group athletics check. Natural 20 from Laudna. Chetney with a 18, Dorian with a 29. I get the feeling that's not the right number. That was way too high. Breas with a 25, Fern with a 4, Imogen with a 21, Orm with a 22, and Ashton with a 12. Matt marks down on the good clock yet again. The party see a divide in the slide and they're all able to make sure that they go left. Some of them take a bit of damage from it though. It does, however, turn into a corkscrew and they leave the ground yet again. Imogen throws her lights up in this room to see where the next part of the slide is, and they see what looks to be a massive drop off to an endless expanse on either side of the slide that they're on. They need to make another athletics check. Ashton with a 17, Orm with a 14, Imogen with a 9, Fern with a 4, Breas with a 9, Dorian with a 17, and Laudna with a 20, and Chetney with a 27. They all scatter out a bit as they land on the next part of the slide, which seems to be a large sheet of rock going down. So it went from like a singular sheet to like one of the bigger ones, like wide. So they're all spreading out on this rock sheet. They try to regroup as they hit the end, which leads to more slides, but they all end up in different ones. Matt puts a mark on the bad clock. Eventually, Breas, Fern, and Imogen emerge out together, but they don't see anyone else. They seem to be on a rock platform on top of what seems to be some sort of massive pillar, and to the sides are just a bunch of drop-offs and more pillars off in the distance, and they see the faint shimmer of what seems to be a piece of the prime pillar, or at least more glass. There's many platforms below and all around them. However, the other party members emerge together and see that they are closer to the pillar and they're a little bit lower down. So the team that fail are higher up and have to make their way down towards the other ones, and they're a lot further away. And the team that ended up succeeding are lower and closer to the pillar. However, the other team that did land together and succeeded sees Imogen's lights as she's able to cast lights, and, she's good. Fern turns into a shoebill and flies Breas over, and Imogen can fly, so with no issue they regroup. Chetney looks for creatures all around them, perception check of 11. He sees that the ceiling is not visible, and it's just darkness above him, and he can't quite tell what's going on up there. So he's not sure if there's anything watching them at the moment. Lana looks for movement around the prime pillar. She sees that it gives off a glow, and there is a bunch of branching branches pushing out from this part of the pillar. But that's realistically all she can see from here. Breas heals Fern a little bit, and they decide that they're going to fly over in groups with Imogen and Fern's help. Ashley rolls a d20 and she rolls a 19, and it doesn't take very long for them to make their way over to the glass pillar. They see that this glass pillar is partially merged with the rock, and there seems to be some sort of man-made hole or tunnel that digs out from this pillar, and it seems to drop off in the darkness, seemingly implying that whoever dug it out fell to their death. Dorian feels like they have no direction, but Breas has labyrinthian recall, which lets him know exactly where north is at all times, and he has advantage on survival checks to navigate. He makes a survival check and he rolls a dirty 20. He sees what looks to be some sort of illusion in the glass pillar here that look like overlapping gaps but are actually a walkway. They walk along this branch, and they can all feel the buzzing in their minds from the glass next to them. They find a cavern that looks like people have been here recently. This cavern is still made of the glass. They head into this cavern, and it's hard to move around in this cavern and these paths because of the glass, and it makes it look like many mirrors. But Breas feels confident in where they're walking, and they emerge back into a burrowed out human or man-made tunnel. They can hear voices muttering off in the distance and soft weeping. Orem tries to figure out the distance, and he rolls a 29 on his perception, and he can tell they're less than 100 feet away from these talking people. Chetney uses Arcane Eye to look ahead for them. He follows the path down and comes around a bend, and he finds a tunnel that pushes out into the prime pillar. On a platform, he sees a faint magical field, and inside of it is Ludinus holding his hands together, and behind him, in the air, is Liliana, and many Ruidus-born are all around them. There seems to be, as far as Chetney can see, 4 Exaltants nearby. He sees Liliana's hair is turning white, and her fingers are beginning to crumble away. The party prepare for combat with their usual stuff. Chetney turns into a werewolf, Fern brings out Mister, Breas inspires Imogen, Dorian gives his mount to Orem, Imogen casts Jump on Chetney, which is actually a new thing, and of course, Laudna uses Mirror Image. They start to head into the chamber to fight Ludinus, and a map is out. The party rush in, and they see that there are 5 Exaltants surrounding Ludinus, holding up this magical field that seems to protect him, and he is inside of that. Imogen is flying into the room. Orem is also flying into the room, and the two of them are sort of leading their way in. Orem sees another Exaltant off in the distance. Everyone turns towards the party as they walk in. Ludinus says, "Do not let them interrupt her judgment. Her gift shall remain key to freeing them from the tyranny of the divine, and it is time to roll initiative." So initiative rolls. Chetney has a 21, Fern with a 19, Breas a 16, Laudna with a 15, Ashton and Dorian have a 14, Imogen with a 13, and Orem is last with a 10, which is fucking shocking. It seems Ludinus is almost done absorbing Liliana. They have about 3 rounds to save her. They see 5 Exaltants are holding up a magic field. First up is Chetney. He moves up towards this magical field, and he puts a blood curse on the Exaltant next to him, giving him disadvantage on concentration saves. Chetney then throws his chisel at the Exaltant, dealing 12 damage. The Exaltant still makes the save. Fern is up. She casts Scorching Ray on the same guy, hitting 3 of her rays, dealing 31 damage. The Exaltant then drops concentration on the magical field. Mister shoots at the exact same Exaltant. Sorry, he shoots at the one that is not part of it. This one is called an Exalted Knight, who is not part of holding up the shield. But Mister misses, because of course he does. The Exaltant seems a little bit different. He seems to be more armored, hence he is an Exalted Knight. Breas runs into the room and Misty steps towards another concentrating exaltant. He hits with a crit and uses Divine Smite on it, and a charge from his weapon, meaning he deals a ton of damage. He deals 108 damage, blowing this guy into fucking pieces. Honestly, one of the coldest moves ever. He just ran forward, Misty stepped, and blew this guy up in one hit. It was glorious. He sees another exaltant that seems to be heavily armored off in the distance. So there's 2 knights, and there used to be 5 exaltants, but now there's only 4. Laudna is up. She enters her form of dread, and she runs into the room. She opens her mouth, and out from her mouth is her Hound of Ill Omen, and she places it between 2 concentrating exaltants. She then casts Fireball on them. They both fail, taking 25 damage. However, they both keep concentration. But one of them is frightened of her now. Her Hound then attacks and misses. The exaltant knights are now up, and one of them rushes Laudna, and the other one rushes Breas. The first one hits twice on Laudna, whose mirror image does actually have an effect, because unlike Caleb, hers works apparently, and only one of them hits. She takes 10 damage, but she has disadvantage on intelligence saving throws until her next turn from the glass blade. Breas is hit by a 27 and a natural 20. He takes 10 damage and 22 damage respectively, and has the same disadvantage on himself for intelligence saves. The knight then picks up the concentration as a bonus action for the one who died, which is insane. Ashen is up. He rages and moves to the side. He then attacks with a wormhole strike, hitting the one fighting Laudna. Or he would hit, but he uses a psychic buckler ability to block it. I'm almost 90% sure that Odahan Thule also had a psychic buckler ability. So, fuck this guy. Ashen swings again, but misses. Dorian is up, and he flies with his boots into the air. He flies into the room and casts Hypnotic Pattern in front of the magical field, hitting 3 exaltants with it. 2 of them fail, and they are incapacitated. Imogen is up. She casts Whirlwind as a quicken spell on the exaltants in the back row, the ones that were fireballed, making a storm appear. They both fail, and the Hound of Ill Omen also fails and takes 39 damage, killing the Hound. They now need to make a strength save, and they both fail and are restrained. However, they both keep concentration during all of this. She then uses her action to move the storm on top of another exaltant, trapping it as well. He needs to make a dex save now, and he fails, taking 38 damage. He keeps concentration, however. He is then also restrained as he fails the strength save. So now there are 3 exaltants stuck inside a whirlwind. The exaltants are now up. One of them, next to Chetney, uses Synaptic. I'm just going to roll with it. On Laudna, Fern, Orem, Mister, and Dorian's mount. Intelligence saves from all of them. Laudna fails with a 9, and she takes 32 damage. 32 damage, and for a minute, she has minus a d6 on attack rolls, ability checks, and con saves. And the same goes for everyone else who fails. Fern saves, so she only takes 16 damage. Mister fails, so 32 damage. Orem fails for 32, and Dorian's mount fails for 32 as well. Laudna is up, and Laudna uses her Hellish Rebuke on this guy for the first time ever in this campaign by the feels of it. She deals 24 damage to him. He loses concentration on the magical field. Another exaltant in the storm casts Phantasmal Force on Imogen, who fails her save, but she can't be frightened, so nothing happens. The other 2 inside cast Dissonant Whispers on Imogen. She fails, taking 8 psychic damage, and she then has to move back 30 feet. The last one uses Hypnotic Pattern on Laudna and Imogen, who both save, so nothing happens. Con check from Imogen. She saves, because she got to keep her spell up. Orem is up. He moves forward and uses Seedling to grab onto the guy fighting Laudna, but he saves, so Orem continues on without fighting that guy. He then moves up next to Breas. The mount attacks, missing all of its attacks, because Jesus Christ, it seems to suck. And Orem then swings and hits, doing a tripping attack. However, the knight saves. Orem deals 13 damage. Second attack hits. The Exaltant fails the trip this time, and he takes 16 damage and is prone. Orym makes his last attack a goading attack and hits for 20 damage. However, it saves the goad, and it saves all of its con checks. Action Surge. He hits again, dealing 19, hits again, dealing 14, and hits again, dealing 19 more. The Exaltant Knight keeps concentration. What the fuck? Lewdness is up. He uses his Crush Will ability, which used to be Liliana's, and he uses it on Imogen. She fails the save, and she takes 15 psychic damage. It would be more, but she's resistant. And she is stunned until the end of Lewdness's next turn. She keeps her concentration, however. Lewdness laughs, and the party watch as Liliana's feet begin to crumble into powder. Chetney is up. He ignites his claws into lightning and slashes at the guy near him. He misses as the guy uses his buckler ability. He uses shield. He hits his last attack, however, dealing 18 damage. Fern is up, and she uses Scorching Ray on the guys inside the whirlwind. She hits 3 for 4, dealing 10, 7, and 7 damage to the guys inside respectively. They each take 1 of those damages. One of them loses concentration, and Mr. then shoots his shit at the guy that Orym is fighting, but he misses. Braius is up. He swings for the guy who's prone on the ground, but misses. He then swings for the guy again, using, this time hitting, and using his Divine Smite for 24 more damage, killing this Exaltant Knight. Thank fucking God. Braius then moves towards Laudna, casting Healing Word on her for 6 hit points. Laudna is up. She then casts Shocking Grasp on the guy in front of her. She hits, dealing 17 damage, and he can't take reactions, so she runs the fuck away. She then Quicken Spells and casts Eldritch Blast on the guy near Chetney. She hits for 15 damage, killing him. These guys are finally dropping. The Exaltant Knights are up, or at least one of them, because there's only one left. He shoots Imogen with his glass blade. I imagine some sort of energy beam came out. I kind of missed it. But he hits once for 8 damage. He then runs up and starts concentrating on the magic field. You son of a bitch. Ashton is up. He walks out from behind the rock and swings a wormhole strike at the Exaltant Knight, this time hitting for 19 damage. The Knight is then pulled into the wormhole, landing beside Ashton. Ashton then walks up and swings, but misses. Dorian is up. He flies towards Imogen, grabs her hand, and says that he loves his mother too, and casts Lightning Bolt on the guys in the whirlwind, hitting all of them. Dex saves from them. 2 of them fail, taking 24 damage, and 1 of them saves, taking 12. Dorian then gives Imogen a Bardic Inspiration. The Exaltants are up, and they get concentration back as a bonus action, and then one casts Hypnotic Pattern on Braius, Orym, and Dorian's mount. Wisdom saves. Braius and Orym both save, but the mount fails. The next one, who did the same thing, this time Braius fails and Orym saves. The last one inside the whirlwind drops concentration on the magical field and casts Telekinesis on Chetney. Chetney fails his save and is pushed 30 feet back. Orym is up. He leaps off the mount and runs for Ashton. And he swings for the knight that is in between them at advantage, hitting, dealing 9 damage. Hits again for 14, and he hits again with his last attack for 13 damage. This motherfucker kept his concentration this entire time. Lewdness is up. He uses Mind Sliver on Imogen. Leave her the fuck alone, you bastard. She fails her save, taking 7 damage, and for the next minute, all of her saves have minus a d4. Sorry, her next save has minus a d4. Lewdness says soon Liliana will rest. Imogen says that he's going to die soon, and he says not before he's done what he needs to do. Chetney is up. He misty steps away from the telekinesis, and he then runs into the whirlwind. Dex save from him, 27 on the save. He takes 9 damage and is not restrained. He then swings at the guys inside the whirlwind, dealing 17 damage to the guy in front of him. He hits again for 16 more damage, killing that Exaltant, leaving 2 more inside the whirlwind, and blood swirling around inside said whirlwind. Fern is up. She casts Wall of Fire into the whirlwind, hitting the 2 Exaltants inside and Chetney, dealing 19 damage to those who fail and 9 to those who succeed. One of them fails, one of them saves, but they're both killed off, and Braius is free from his hypnotic pattern. Mr. then shoots his shit at the knight between Ashen and Orym and actually hits for 9 damage. Breas is up. He jumps towards Ludinus with an athletics check of 14. He uses the whirlwind to push himself more towards him, and he takes 13 damage from the whirlwind, but does land in front of Ludinus, who looks at Breas through the magic field and has a bit of a smirk on his face. He uses Shining Smite as his bonus action and chooses to hold his action for when the magic field drops. Laudna is up, and she moves towards Ashen, using Void Puppet on the knight between himself and Orym. She then casts Disintegrate on him. The knight fails the save and takes 83 damage, and he is turned to dust. The field drops, and Breas gets his chance. He finally gets his revenge on Ludinus Deleth. He swings and misses his first attack. He then swings again for his second attack and misses. Breas was looking at the lightning veins that have appeared on Ludinus' neck, and it's made it hard for him to concentrate on attacking him. Ashen is up, and he runs forward toward Ludinus, using a wormhole strike on him. However, Ludinus uses silvery barbs to make sure that he misses. Dorian is up. He tells Imogen that he has an idea and asks if she can grab her mother. She says yes, and he flies forward and casts Force Cage, blocking Ludinus in the corner of the Force Cage, blocking both Ludinus and Liliana from him, killing the tether, and Liliana hits the floor. Ludinus simmers in his rage for a second, and Imogen is up. She moves forward and drops her whirlwind spell and uses telekinesis to pull her mother towards her. Her mother is fragile and on the verge of death, but she is still alive. Imogen pours a healing potion into her mouth, healing her mother for 61 damage. Her mother looks at her and asks how, and Imogen says that she's okay. Liliana hugs Imogen and says that she doesn't deserve her, but she's glad she's here. Imogen can't feel her mother's red tether anymore. She tries to give her some sorcery points, but it doesn't work. It seems Liliana is currently not an exultant, or at least at the moment. Orym is up. He runs and vines up onto Dorian's mount. He then flies in front of Imogen and Liliana and holds his action to defend them. He looks to see if this is a Snowdinus, but luckily it's not one of his simulacrums. He can see there's no gem on his forehead, so it's probably the real deal. Ludinus is up. He says it seems we have a moment to chat before the end, and this is where the session ends. Crazy fucking ending. Amazing job. I did not think they were going to save her. So there you go. Episode 117 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role in the books. And it was a super fun episode. This fight did not go at all how I expected it to go. Honestly, the party didn't seem to be in any danger. Like the party themselves, they didn't take too much damage. The only one who did was Imogen. She got crippled a little bit for an entire turn. And then she didn't get to take her last turn, I think. Oh, no, she did. She definitely did. She got the telekinesis. But either way, crazy fucking fight. I very much enjoyed it. The fucking Exultants, the Exultant Knights specifically, proved to be a pain in the ass, which is interesting. I need these stat blocks. As this campaign moves forward, I need Exultant stat blocks. I need Exultant, like, race, if that makes sense, like a Root is Born race stat block. I need Barmotos. I need Quanticas. I need Saitas. I need Mycete. I need Rylorans. Fuck, I need every stat block Matt has come up with for this campaign, because I've fucking loved it. Oh, Avidon's fun. Oh, what's the big bug thing's name? I forget all of a sudden. Vidalch, a massive Vidalch mini. I will pay everything I have for a Vidalch mini, because that thing was sick. But either way, this was a fun episode. I love everything to do with Rudis, so it's very much enjoyable to see them maneuver through the glass and down below, right? Because, like, the Vox Machina fight was on Exandria, right? They're the heroes of Exandria. So it makes a lot of sense that they're the ones who fight on Exandria. And then there's the, you know, the fight with the Mighty Nine and the Weave Mind, like a basically unknown psychic entity, an unknown psychic monstrosity or whatever, who can, like, fuck with your brain. That is the end of Campaign 2 in a nutshell with what they had to fight. So it makes sense that the unknown team fought the unknown force. It just makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, we have the heroes of the Red Solstice in the Bell's Hells fighting to stop the Red Solstice, right? Like that's that. I think that's awesome. They're fighting the Ruby Vanguard. They're fighting the Ruidus Born. It makes like these fights, if you look at it, are microcosms of the campaign, and I think it's fucking awesome how they've played out so far. And it's been crazy. It's been so much fun. These last 10 episodes this year have all been super fun and super awesome. But speaking of that, with me getting all my thoughts of this out of the way, this is it for the year. This is the last episode that's coming out for the year. There was 35 episodes. There was episode 82 up to 117. And I have a mission for everyone. Give me your favorite moments from this year, because I am planning on making a best Critical Role moments for 2024. So let me know what your favorite moment is from the campaign. There can be some stuff from like outside. So like, you know, when they do four-sided dive, maybe narrative telephone, just it depends on certain stuff. So as long as it's on the Critical Role YouTube channel, nothing from Beacon. I won't be taking Beacon stuff because that just feels wrong. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.